Hey, love, I need you to pause again, even if you think you've already heard enough. I need you to feel this, not just read it. Let the noise around you fade. Let the world keep spinning without you for a few minutes. Because what I'm about to say is not casual. It is not light. It is not something I rehearsed to sound poetic or dramatic. It is the most honest I have ever been with you. I have been living with a weight inside my chest for so long that I forgot what it feels like to breathe without it. It has followed me into every room, every conversation, every quiet moment at night when the world goes still and there is nothing left but my thoughts. And in those moments, it was your face that would rise in my mind, your eyes, your voice, the way you always seemed to sense when something was wrong, even when I tried to convince you it wasn't. You felt it, didn't you? That shift, that distance, that subtle but painful space that started to grow between us. You asked questions gently at first, then cautiously, then with hurt behind them. And every time, I told you it was nothing. I told you you were imagining things. I told you we were fine. We weren't fine. There was something there, someone there. A presence that did not belong in our story, but found its way in because I left a crack in the door. I want to be clear about something before I go any further. What happened was not because you were lacking, not because you were distant, not because you failed me in any way. If anything, it was my own unresolved emptiness that created the opening. I was struggling with things I never fully shared with you, doubts about myself, fears about my worth, old wounds that never healed properly. And when someone stepped into that fragile space with carefully chosen words and calculated attention, I mistook it for comfort. At first, it felt harmless. Conversations that seemed innocent, advice that felt supportive, compliments that filled places in me I didn't realize were starving. I told myself it was just friendship, just connection, just someone being kind. But kindness does not slowly isolate you from the person you love. Kindness does not create secrets. Kindness does not thrive in silence and shadows. What I thought was comfort was actually control. What I thought was care was manipulation wrapped in warmth. They studied my vulnerabilities like a map. They learned where I was weakest and pressed gently at first, then firmly, until I was leaning in directions I never meant to lean. And the worst part is, I let it happen. I didn't wake up one day intending to betray your trust. It happened gradually, like drifting off course without noticing the current. One small compromise, one delayed truth, one hidden message, one conversation I told myself I didn't need to mention. And before I realized it, I had built an entire wall out of omissions. You would look at me and ask, "Is there someone else?" And I would say no, because in my mind, I hadn't crossed certain lines. I clung to technicalities to soothe my conscience. But emotionally, mentally, there was a third presence occupying space that should have been sacred between us. I see that now. They never loved me. They needed control. They thrived on dependency, on being the voice I turned to when I felt unsure, on slowly becoming the person whose validation I sought. And the more I leaned there, the more distant I became from you. Not because I stopped loving you, but because I was ashamed of what was happening and didn't know how to stop it. Shame is a powerful prison. Instead of confessing when I first sensed something was wrong, I doubled down on silence. I convinced myself I could manage it, that I could pull away quietly and fix everything without you ever knowing. But manipulation doesn't loosen its grip easily. The more I tried to detach, the more they tightened their hold through guilt, through emotional pressure, through carefully timed vulnerability that made me feel responsible for their well being. I became a pawn, and I hate admitting that. I pride myself on strength, on independence. Yet there I was, moving according to someone else's subtle commands, prioritizing their reactions, their moods, their expectations. Meanwhile, you were standing in front of me, feeling the coldness I couldn't hide. There were nights I lay awake next to you, staring at the ceiling, feeling like a fraud. You deserved transparency. You deserved devotion. You deserved a partner fully present. And I was split in ways you never agreed to. I started losing myself. My laughter changed. My patience thinned. My light dimmed. I wasn't just drifting from you. I was drifting from who I used to be. I looked in the mirror some mornings and didn't recognize the person staring back. There was exhaustion in my eyes, conflict, a quiet self-disgust I couldn't shake. And still, I stayed silent. I told myself I was protecting you from pain, that if I could fix it on my own, you wouldn't have to carry the burden. But the truth is, I was protecting myself from consequences, from seeing disappointment in your eyes, from possibly losing you. Ironically, my silence created the very distance I feared. The turning point came not in some dramatic confrontation, but in a quiet realization. I noticed how empty I felt after interacting with them. Drained, anxious, on edge. That's not what real connection feels like. Real connection doesn't demand secrecy. It doesn't thrive on emotional dependency. It doesn't slowly erode your integrity. I compared that feeling to how I feel with you. Even in our hardest moments, there has always been something steady, something grounding. Even when we argued, there was truth. Even when we were frustrated, there was sincerity. With them, there was performance. I began pulling away for real, not halfway, not slowly, completely. And the reaction confirmed everything. The guilt tactics intensified. The emotional accusations surfaced. The mask slipped. What I once believed was affection revealed itself as possessiveness. That's when I finally understood. I was never loved. I was used to fill their loneliness, used to boost their ego, used as a source of validation. And I let that usage cost me the most important relationship in my life. You. So here I am, standing in the wreckage of my own decisions, choosing honesty at last. I am done with that cycle. Completely. No hidden ties. No lingering conversations. No emotional backdoors. I have severed it. Not because I was forced to. Not because it became inconvenient. But because I finally saw the truth clearly and chose myself and us. But I know words are fragile things. They can promise everything and prove nothing. So I don't expect instant forgiveness. I don't expect you to simply nod and say it's okay. Trust, once cracked, doesn't seal overnight. All I can offer is transparency from this moment forward. I will answer your questions, even the painful ones. I will sit in discomfort if that's what it takes. I will not hide behind defensiveness or pride. If rebuilding is possible, it will only be through consistent truth. And if you decide you cannot move past this, I will accept that too. Because loving you means respecting your boundaries, even if they cost me. But please understand this one thing clearly. My heart never stopped loving you. It may have been confused. It may have been clouded. It may have been manipulated. But it never transferred its loyalty. I never built a future in my mind with anyone else. I never looked at them the way I look at you. What I sought wasn't replacement. It was escape from my own insecurities. And that escape was an illusion. You are not my illusion. You are my reality. The one who has seen me at my worst and still tried to understand me. The one who noticed the shift before I admitted it. The one whose absence, even in imagination, terrifies me more than any confrontation ever could. I am sorry. Not the shallow kind of sorry that hopes to smooth things over, but the kind that aches. The kind that replays every moment I could have chosen differently. The kind that wishes I had trusted you enough to confess sooner. I cannot rewrite the past. I cannot undo the distance I created, but I can stand here now, without masks, without half truths, and say this ends here. No more shadows between us. No more invisible walls. No more silence that protects my pride at the expense of your peace. If we move forward, it will be with open windows, not closed doors. And if this is the moment that defines us, whether as the beginning of healing or the end of our chapter, then at least let it be defined by truth. You were always the one who mattered, the one I built dreams around, the one whose happiness genuinely affects mine, the one I never wanted to hurt. I don't know what you'll decide after reading this. I don't know if you'll reach for me or step back. But I know this. I would rather lose you having finally told the truth than keep you through deception. So here I am. No excuses left. No secrets left. Just a flawed heart asking for the chance to prove that it can learn, that it can grow, that it can choose integrity over fear. Whatever happens next, thank you for loving me as deeply as you did. Thank you for sensing when something was wrong. Thank you for caring enough to question. And if there is even a small space in your heart willing to try again, I will meet you there with honesty as my foundation. Because you were never second. You were never replaceable. You were never the one I wanted to lose. You were always the one I loved.